Hey, hey. What do you say?
How's it going?
Hey, girl. Hey. That's
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
I know.
All right. How are
Oh,
you?
well, I'm great. How are you? We are
Good,
rushing
good.
around like a mad woman today.
That's right. We're gonna do it. Manjeet's got one earring in, and we were just talking about that. And she's like, "We should podcast. We should record this."
Well, because this is a theme in my life right now. I cannot keep two fucking earrings in my on my face, in my ears for the life of me. I have lost my good
Really?
friend Samantha. Yeah, she made her best friend Sam made me the most beautiful earrings. Um, I, I'm obsessed with them, and I lost it. I lost one of them,
Last one.
and so I'm asking her to like custom make me one, but she can't find a bead that's the same as the other one. So I'm like, fuck. Same thing with another pair of my favorite earrings. My beautiful friend Mara, who's going to be incidentally at the our mystical night in. She's bringing
Yeah.
all of her beautiful custom jewelry. Her stuff is unbelievable. I lost one of those earrings. And
Oh,
look at me today.
I
Look at
know.
this.
Well, hold on. Is it the same ear? I mean, let's kind of narrow
Oh,
it down. Let's find out what's going on. Like, is it? Are
mm,
you
no.
aware? Well, I mean, like when it happens, obviously one doesn't say right and one says left, but I'm just saying, do you notice, like, is it always your right side that's missing? Is it always your left
No,
side?
no,
Doesn't
it's
even
right
matter.
down the
Either way.
middle. It's this
Yeah.
one or
Okay.
that one. Yesterday, I had my other big, beautiful floppy discs on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. Did I see? I don't know if I saw you. Did I see you
Not yet.
yesterday? I saw you.
No.
No, not yesterday. So I had these on, and I couldn't find it after my workshop. I had my online Shine Intuitive Vision Board workshop. So I'm wearing them. At the end of that, I can't find it. I go to bed, take off my clothes, and it's sitting right in my bra.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
Well,
That's what happens.
I'm, it's shocking.
Like, what's shocking that you didn't feel it.
Exactly. I'm like, what the hell? I know
I
one of
would
my
be like,
boobs is reconstructed. I get it. I know it. But
oh my God, don't make
sweet
me laugh.
heavens.
My cold sore
What
is going to
the
bust in half and I'm going to start bleeding right here on camera. I'm starting to go,
hell?
oh,
I'm
oh my
like,
God.
I don't know what's happening. And on that
Oh,
note, welcome. Welcome
welcome.
to our podcast, Lightworkers
Lightworkers
Unite.
Unite.
Lightworkers Unite is a podcast and social show hosted by intuitive women, lightworkers, and most importantly, friends, Mayume and Manjeet. Welcome to our podcast, Lightworkers Unite, where we believe there is a lightworker within all of us.
Whether you are a medium, an educator, or a nuclear medicine technologist, there is a lightworker within you, and we have work to do.
This is a safe and sacred place where lightworkers connect, grow, and learn.
And share our light with the world.
Okay, I love it. I love it so much. Gosh darn it. Well, it's somewhere there. It's somewhere there. But so
It's
yeah,
gotta be, right?
let's talk about
Okay.
what's
I'm
topic
gonna look.
today. What's everyone
I know.
everyone's tuning in. So today is about imposter syndrome. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a good
Yes.
one, I think,
We're
because we haven't talked about it yet.
no. Well, how would you define that? How would you define imposter syndrome for yourself?
Well, for myself,
Or for, in
for
general.
no, well, in general, I mean, when I hear imposter syndrome, I think of, so, it's where you are feeling as though you are not who you say you are, or you stepping up to, what you've told people, like, okay, so I'm a psychic medium, and then I'm like, am I really though? And sometimes I feel like it's fake it till you make it, but it's kind of this thing where we internally, I feel, do to ourselves, where this whole thing comes up, like, this belief that maybe I'm not who I claim to be, or maybe I am just not good enough, or showing up, or not worthy to give myself this title, or whatever it is. I mean, imposter syndrome can be in your career, your work, or even in life, I mean, hell, I'm like, maybe I'm not such a great mom. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm really fucking all of this up and these poor children. I'm just joking. I mean, I don't know, but
I love
I
it.
mean, I know there's the real definition and what I've learned about it. And it's interesting because I go in and out of it for sure, depending on the cycle of the month, depending on what's going on around me. Sometimes I'm feeling good and confident and things are going and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I really am. I really am a medium, you know. Yeah,
Yes,
I
I
don't
can
know.
do
But
this.
then I can do this. But that is I feel like imposter syndrome is slowly falling away from me, but I do sense there's pockets of it. And I think people talk about it a lot, and which I think we need to talk about it to help our light workers, because I'm sure there's people who are
Yes.
feeling that. And so
Yeah.
what is it and how do we move through it?
Yeah. I
Coach,
love this.
Coach Manjeet.
Coach, well, I see this a lot with clients,
Mhm.
100%. But and maybe I see this a lot because it's very, very common. There was a psychologist, Suzanne Imes and Pauline Rose Clance. They first described it in high achieving business women. Did you know that in the 70s, late 70s? So it's really a thing, like where, it's definitely present in men as well, but it is really this feeling of, being in a position of power or taking ownership of a certain skill or a place in the world, essentially, where you feel like you're making it up. You feel like you are literally an imposter. An imposter means somebody who is a con man or con woman, right? Somebody who is making it up. Yeah. So even scientists, brilliant scientists, there was a big thing about this. Even Albert Einstein, he actually felt like an imposter, in his life. Like he had imposter syndrome. So if you think about it that way, like it is really prevalent in all areas, all across the board, all fields, right? Where you are sometimes put in these positions or you take ownership of some kind of trait or role or new role in your job, and you feel like, am I really good enough for that? Like, is this really, like, do I really, can I really do this? Yeah.
And I think it creates anxiety, right? I mean, they kind of talk about that where some people are prone to where anxiety kicks in and all of a sudden they're in that imposter syndrome. And it, in a way, it doesn't surprise me that it was women, maybe that it was noticeable or it started with women, because I think women have always had to kind of fight their way up and fighting for positions and in business and trying to be seen and heard, especially when it comes to competing with men. And I think men have it too. They just don't speak about it. They just would never say it, or right. They would never speak about it like we do.
Yeah.
Happily. I'm happy to say, yes, I have suffered from that. I think we all at some point in our life.
Oh, yeah.
What are you going to say?
Oh, yeah. I was just saying, like, I think especially, I know in business, for me, being primarily with a lot of men, you're kind of coming into these situations where they're looking at me, they're like, oh, she, maybe looks young, or she doesn't look like she might know what she's talking about, or she's not a man, right? Like, or does she speak English? Her name is Manjeet Basran, right? Very, very Indian name. So they have all these expectations of who they're going to meet when I come into the meeting. Assumptions. And I've seen that over and over and over again, that sometimes going into some of these meetings, I would feel really self-conscious. Like, I hope they don't think that I can't speak English. I hope that they don't see me as somebody who looks too young to be in this role. I hope that they don't have an aversion to the fact that I'm speaking about money and I'm a woman, so all of that projection and all of those experiences, they can sometimes land on you. And what ends up happening is you end up actually second guessing your own skills. That's all part of imposter syndrome. You start second guessing or believing that, well, I do know what the fuck I'm talking about, actually, or
yeah, it's that fear of
know,
feeling like a fraud, right? It's
Yeah.
the word fraud, I think, comes up with it as well. It's that feeling of,
yes,
oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm a
definitely.
fraud, that I'm really not who I say I am, or yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
what do
I
we
think,
do? What do we do to get through that?
well, I think it, I mean, it's just a matter of, I think first is acknowledging it, right? I think having this conversation is really important and really powerful, because if you go into a meeting believing that everyone knows more about this than you do, right? You're putting yourself, you're on a, you're creating a hierarchy in the conversation right off the bat, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
And this is, big part of what I coach people that are going into big meetings, to really let go of that perception that you're here and they're up here. And if you're watching the show, you can see that there's a big difference between both of my hands. Right? You're not going into this meeting on a level playing field. And if you go in with that, they are absolutely going to feel that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think just understanding this, knowing this is happening. It also, there's also this thing about imposter syndrome that I think, and I know I experience this a lot. It's like, when I do this, I have to kind of go through this motion of, I'm really worried I'm going to disappoint them. Like, if I come through with this, if I sign the contract, if I make this all work, there's that part of me that says, oh, you can't fuck this up. Like, don't disappoint them. Like, I want to do the best work and I want it to be awesome. And I'm not giving myself any grace. I'm living in this world of perfectionism, essentially. Right.
Right. Which women tend to do.
Exactly. Especially when they're, in a room full of fucking men that you're trying to say, I know what I'm doing. I promise, I promise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And for fear of not getting it right, or maybe validating how they feel. Right. Oh shit. I came in here, worried and feeling, incompetent, or worried about coming across as incompetent and not confident. When on the contrary, we are. Right. I mean, that's kind of what I think imposter syndrome is we really are who we are. We're confident, we know this, but it's that fear and anxiety of not showing up in that way.
Yeah.
That we know we can be.
I know. And I think it's really connected to this, like, this, I see this a lot as well with imposter syndrome. It's like this denying, like, I'm not, like, oh, I get praise. You get praised, like, a great job. Like, that's awesome. Or even when I give it to somebody else, say, oh, that was really awesome what you did. There's this, oh no, deferring. They don't accept the compliment.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's also, interestingly enough, a part of this imposter syndrome, because it really, you are denying the win. You're saying, I don't deserve that win.
You don't feel worthy.
Like, you don't feel, you don't feel like you deserve that success. So it really trickles down into all these things. So if you're one of those people that, denies the compliment, like, just like, no, even when people say, no, it was a team thing, we all won it together. That's great. But there's also an opportunity to say, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
I think that brings you into a place of ownership. And that's what this is all about for me.
Yeah. I agree, for all of us.
Yeah.
For those, I mean, it's interesting that it does come up, right? And I'm trying to think of when the first time I heard it was, I mean, probably in the last 10 years. I wouldn't say back when I was growing up, in high school, in my early 20s, was people referring to it, or at least not in the areas that I was around. So it was something that came into later in life for me. And when I was working all my jobs before I stayed home to have my babies, then coming back into the the work field after being home and being a stay-at-home mom, then I suffered probably a lot more of that, of like, oh my gosh, how am I going to really pull this off or prove who I am and what I can do? I know I've had a gap and now I'm coming back. So it all starts with ourselves. And then so my question is, I know I've overcome a lot, and it does take time, and it does take a lot
Yeah.
of really positive self-talk. And getting validation is nice, like you said, when people give you compliments. But for a woman, for us, for light workers, let's say that for light workers, what are some coping mechanisms on how to build that confidence and maybe end the cycle of coming in and out of imposter syndrome? When do we actually
Yeah.
reach the point where we're like, listen, I know who I am. I know,
Yeah.
what I'm capable of. I know my worth, and I'm confident in who I am and being
Yeah.
able to say and proclaim who I am and what I do. So,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
takes a
I
while.
think, yeah, it does take a while. It takes practice, right? But
Takes
and again,
practice.
I really think one of the biggest things is, owning it, or seeing it, right? See that this is part of what you're doing. And if you're a perfectionist, right? If that's another really, really big way that
Mhm.
imposter syndrome shows up, it's like you just it has to be perfect, 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 perfect. And then, and then when you get praise from that, you don't own it. So what's happening is you're overcompensating all the time. And the reason why we're doing that is because we're insecure. I mean, bottom line, right? We're insecure about our worth and our value that we've added. So we go through life feeling like we're imposters. We're just, oh, we got lucky. Like, oh, that was just it was a fluke, right? So I think number one is acknowledging that there are definitely characteristics that that tell us that we're in imposter syndrome mentality. It's a
Yeah.
mental frame of mind. Once we acknowledge that maybe I am doing this, I think one of the biggest things is owning your power. And how do we do that? Right? It's easy for me to say that, but I think one of the biggest things, and I'm kind of using this as an example for work, right? Like imposter syndrome and maybe the work that you're doing, right? Or even if you're a mother, the first thing you want to do is accept the compliment, right? And that can be really difficult. Accept good feedback. And if you don't get good feedback from people, you create good feedback for yourself. So you tell yourself, I did a really good job with that. I handled that problem really well, right? You start telling yourself that, reminding yourself of what a great job you did. So you create your own praise. Now, this is very, very unnatural, isn't it? For a lot of people, it feels boastful. Let's be real. It feels like
Sure.
I'm like boasting, right?
Sure.
But in reality, what you're doing is not boastful, but rather filling your cup. You're saying, I want to take ownership of this really fucking awesome thing that I just did. And I'm a badass. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
No.
And women don't do that. We have a
Yeah.
hard time doing that.
We do. I agree. I agree. Because men have a great time. I mean, they have an easier time. Great time. They have an easier time, I think. And again, that's me putting them in categorizing and stereotyping. It's not true for all men.
Yeah.
But it's
Definitely.
behaviors like downplaying what you know or seeking mentorship for external validation that are not caused by one particular incident. So it's having sometimes they go, it might come from your roots way back. Like if you had a sister and they were called the smart one and you were called the dumb one, or,
Yeah.
those kind of show up depending on where you are in your life. And all of a sudden you're like, well, I am smart too. And I want to step up and I believe in myself. And like you said, so having that awareness, like, I think I'm feeling this insecurity, lack of self-confidence, and building the self-talk and saying, well, no, and I can do these things. I know that I'm smart, just because somewhere in the
Absolutely.
past something was said and it stuck with me. They were talking about in this article I was reading about, it says logging the things, like keeping a journal or a note. And I think so maybe it's, trying to avoid maybe feeling boastful, but for yourself, keeping a little personal
Yeah.
journal and log about all the wonderful things you've been doing to validate who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen to people who are telling you who you are. right? Like people, if you're surrounding yourself with people that are kind and loving and actually see you, maybe sit down and think about who are those people that really know you, right?
Mhm.
Maybe sit down and talk to them, ask them, what kind of a mother do you really think I am? Right. So maybe finding those people that you really, really trust and they're going to tell you the truth and actually fucking believe them. Right. Like really just go,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to believe what you're telling me and
Yes.
really fill my cup and make me, just really honoring that, what? It's time. It's time for me to really own my
Yeah,
greatness, you know?
that's right. Yeah.
And it is incremental. Like I'm not saying you're going to one day wake up and, talk to your best friend and she's going to hype you up. And then you're going to be like, I'm not imposter syndrome anymore. No, I'm just saying, they're incremental steps, but we got to start somewhere, not
Gotta
going to
start
just
somewhere and,
wake up and feel like I'm perfect and, all that. It is over
no,
time.
right.
Yeah.
It is over. I agree. And knowing that perfectionism isn't real and that nothing's going to be perfect. And this is where I believe, kind of manifestation comes hand in hand with this too, is start acting the part. If you're starting to doubt yourself, this is how people will get that job that they want. I want to be vice president of this company one day. Well, I'm going to start acting as if I already am. I'm going to start, in my emails, using the verbiage, the language, my body language, what I wear to work. What are the things that I can do to, act the part and really believe it? And then it starts to morph and blend. And pretty soon that you're doing it. We can all do that. We can all, I believe in positive self-talk and whether it's affirmations or having little, your favorite slogans, quotes around you, to kind of remind yourself and bring you back into that inner awareness of who you are and just kind of bring you back to center when we start having insecurities and start having doubts of who we are and how we're showing up. Just to
And
kind of
I
bring you
think that
back.
that's really great. It's just sometimes people don't even know where they start from, so they don't have like a safe place to start from, like to remind themselves of who they are. You got to almost like create who you are, like creating who this new person is by saying, this is who I am. I am a strong, badass bitch. I'm a boss bitch. I can do this, right?
You write those quotes and post-it notes and leave them around for you, or yes, and in your journal every day, something that
Yeah.
can
And I
help
think
you.
if that doesn't feel authentic though, then there's a problem, right? If it feels like you're just kind of making it up and, then you might really need to talk to somebody, right?
Yeah,
Don't you think? Like
I do.
if
I
that's
do.
feeling like you're just kind of putting a salve on a wound that's not healing it, then I do think that sometimes a lot of this work, it might really mean going down, digging a little deeper. Where are those areas that you're feeling like a super perfectionist? Let's talk about why that is, right? A good therapist, a good counselor, a good coach, right? They can help you unpack some of those things, those limiting belief systems that you've created for yourself, so that when you do say that affirmation, you're going to believe it, right? And that affirmation is going to be catered to like who you are in that moment, right? So, I mean, there's no harm, I think, in really, if it's something that is crippling you, imposter syndrome, really keeping you living small and in doubt, and from really stretching your wings, and really being in your full power.
Yeah.
If you're living in a world of perfectionism and you feel like you got to do it all yourself, that kind of bullshit, you might, right? You might really benefit from talking to someone about it. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you said, if it's crippling you, if you're finding that your self-talk is really causing you to spiral, I definitely say seek help with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also coming back to spirit, just please know, I mean, one thing that you can say, or I don't know, to ourselves, it is hard. If you can't find a place within yourself to find your center and just love who you are, or knowing that, okay, I am loved, I am safe. Louise Hay says this, I am safe. Whatever comes out of the situation will be for my highest good. Well, I'm always in a place where I'm learning. And so if we can just say something that's kind of basis like that, just a general foundation of,
Mhm.
of everything is happening for me and in my highest good, no matter
Yeah.
what that is. No matter
Yeah, I know. What's your go-to? What's your go-to, Mayu, when you're feeling depleted? Like you feel like, oh, I'm feeling like an imposter in my own life right now. What do you say to yourself?
Well,
What's your go-to?
Well, I have a mantra that's my go-to that kind of centers me, but I am healthy, wealthy, and loved. I mean, it's something I've said over and over,
Yeah.
but it's really about coming back to like I am safe. I am safe, I'm
Mm,
supported, I am loved. I am safe, I am supported, I am loved. And knowing that I'm just a firm believer in spirit and that there is a higher power. So I know that my guardian angel is right here. So I'll just talk to that angel and say, okay, remind me again, I'm safe, I'm supported, I'm
mm,
loved because I am a beautiful spiritual being. And number one, that's kind of what I do. I'm not saying that that's for everyone, but that's
yeah.
my go-to. I mean, and this is like, obviously I have my husband, I have my besties, I have my children. Um, for me, I go inward. It's more solo than
Mm,
like going to my husband and saying, "Can you tell me how wonderful I am, please? Can you tell me I'm beautiful today? Or am I doing an okay
yeah.
job?" I feel like no, I just go inward and I remind myself, I quiet my mind and I just kind of sit with beautiful music and I just remind myself, I'm safe, I'm supported, I am loved.
Love it.
So
Yeah. I love
again,
it.
anyone who, if that resonates with you, take it, do it. Playing your favorite song that can do, sometimes we want to sit in our sadness and our doubt and our insecurity. So play those songs, like sit in it for a little while and let it process. And then flip it and play your favorite song that makes you want to move. We all have those songs where like every time you hear, you can't help but like start to move your body and kind of create a shift. But music is a great way and just your little words. So that's
But
me. So how about you? What's your
yeah,
go-to?
well, I think I'm a bit of a mix of both. I do love getting affirmation from people that I love and trust. Like I'll call my sister 100% and
Yeah.
say,
You have a sister to
okay,
do that with. It's awesome.
Belby, yeah, let me know, right? Where am I? Am I way off base here? Like, tell me the truth. Was I overreacting? Or, I want to walk through it with her. And inevitably, that always kind of sets me back. Like, man, you know what the fuck you're doing? Like,
Yeah.
calm down. You're fine. But then I do have my own mantra too. So, but I do sometimes really love that external validation. But again, it's from somebody who's really, really tight and close to my heart that
Yeah.
I'm going to, number one, feel safe with her. And number two, I believe her. I believe that she
Yes.
is going to tell me the truth.
Right.
And so finding
Right.
those people is everything. And like for you, it's probably your besties and your husband, like you've got that network of people that you can go, was I really
Yes.
was I out of line? Like,
Where
I
I
know
feel
you're going to
safe
tell me
to say,
straight or
yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And that to
Mm-hmm.
me is really, really important to get that, to have that bouncing off of somebody that I really love and trust. But my mantra is always, and always has been, take a deep breath. And I just say, I've got this. I've got this. I've got it. I've got it. I don't need to worry. I've got this.
Yes.
And in that is really a lot of ownership. Like I'm going into this really tough meeting. I know I'm going to be, my feet are going to be in the fire. Like they're holding me accountable for some really big shit. Like I know I believe in myself to say, I can do this. I've got this. Right. Because it's my feet in the fire in that moment. But that also being said, I also feel like I'm never alone. Right. Like, so I love how you said, your team, like I've got my spiritual team and I'll say, I've got this. I know I've got to walk this path. I've got to go do this myself. And in the same breath, I know I'm divinely, protected too. So
Right.
I love that.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
But yeah, I've got this. I've got this. I've been saying
Yeah,
that a
that's
lot this
interesting.
year.
Yeah. You've got this. You've got this, girl. I love that.
Mhm.
I think if I've ever come to a place where I am really in self-doubt or having that, imposter syndrome or that insecurity of what I'm doing, who I am, how I'm showing up. I don't know why, but I feel like I tend to go inward and I don't know, quieting my mind, meditation, my sacred meadow. I tend to like go inward and find my spirit and my spirit team, and that always brings me home. It always brings me into okay, remember,
Mhm.
this is a human experience, Mayum. Right? I'm not going to be
Yeah.
perfect as a human. I'm here to learn lessons, and this is what I'm feeling, but I am a beautiful spiritual being. And so if I come home to that, I'm always safe. I just always know, like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm doing my
Love it.
best as a human here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's interesting. I love
I
this
love it.
because when we're having these conversations, it allows us to ask ourselves, how are we showing up for this stuff? Because I, I think
Yeah.
our listeners want to know also, so that we could, if they resonate with, one of us or both of us, and have them take a look at their own lives and where they're at, where in their life
Yeah.
are they feeling maybe they're having a little insecurity or imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it is very normal, right?
Oh,
That's the bottom
yes.
line. It's really normal. You're in good company, fucking Albert
Mhm.
Einstein. I mean, it's a real thing.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think for you and I, we work with a lot of our people that are working in the light, in the spiritual world, in the metaphysical spaces where there aren't always well-defined rules and regulations. So, we're walking in these paths as Reiki masters blending, you know, tattoos, right? Like they're creating their own metaphysical spaces, and there's no rule book. So how do you not kind of feel like you're a bit of an imposter, right? Or like have doubt? I think that's just a really natural, normal part. A lot of my
Yeah.
clients are starting their own businesses, right? They are doing stuff that's not out there. They're reinventing the wheel. They're creating stuff from nothing. That's a scary place, So just honoring that. It's a beautiful place it's a beautiful thing to create something from nothing, to have a divinely guided adventure, a new business, right? But it can also be really, really scary. And I think that's just really normal.
I
So
agree.
hopefully
So
this
normal to be
helps.
like, who am I to think that I can do this shit? Who am I to
Yeah.
think that, oh my gosh, I'm putting myself out there. I'm calling myself this, and people are going to
Mhm.
believe me, and they're going to trust me. So I need to show
Yeah.
up. I need to
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
it.
And I'm going to make a website. What? Yeah, it's real. And so I just think that it's just such a beautiful time to throw that out there. And for folks that are feeling at all like a little bit of an imposter in their life, number one, acknowledge it. Number two, make some powerful decisions around it, that would serve you moving forward. And hopefully some of these tricks and tips will help.
Yeah, we're just listening to it and knowing that we think it's normal and we know it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
and just I know that this would be something that we would talk about if we were sitting across from each other with a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, and we would talk about like, oh my gosh, am I really doing this?
Yeah.
And having
And
that
we have done
safety.
this.
Yeah, and we have. We're like, oh my God, are we really gonna go in and clear that house? Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. And we did a damn good job too. So I think
We did.
it's relevant for everyone, man or woman. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's relevant.
absolutely. No matter where you are in your life, just know you're not alone. And,
Yeah.
there are strategies that you can absolutely do and take that will help you navigate that, and know that you're not alone. We all feel it. The imposter syndrome shows up in lots of different ways: fear of success, fear of failure, perfectionism,
Yeah.
soloism, right? Feeling like you got to do everything yourself.
Mhm.
Like that's all part of that, right?
Mhm.
But identifying it and knowing about it is the very first step. And you're right on track. And we love you.
And go to your besties, right? Go to your besties.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we
They're
do.
so great. I love my
Well, that was great.
besties.
Me too. Me too.
Yes.
All right, girl. Nice job. Okay.
Nice
Well,
job. Well, have a
Nice job.
it was so good to chat with you, my sister. And I can't wait to
Anyone's
see you
wondering,
next
I'm
week.
in Chelan right now, so I look like, I mean, I'm going to the pool next. So that's why I'm like, I'm kind of like, but
Yay.
yes, I'm excited to kind of have this week off for a little family time. And if you're watching this, everyone on YouTube, please go to YouTube if you're not, and come check out Manjeet's cute new hair color. It's awesome.
Oh, and my one earring.
And your one earring.
Ding, ding. I better find that fucker. I'm telling you, I love these. These are my favorites.
God, you're gonna find it.
All right.
It's down there
I know.
somewhere.
I'm gonna find
right.
it stuck in my bra, probably. The one that's,
Probably.
I don't know. Who knows? All right. Well, I love you. All right. Have a good one.
Talk to you next week.
Namaste.